call to order the meeting at 6 p.m. Can we get a quorum established?
Yes. Trustee Hack?
I'm here.
Trustee Lathan?
Here.
Trustee Lewis? Vice President Rocha? President Hernandez?
Here. Great. So we'll go ahead and head into a closed session. We have 3 items on our closed session agenda. We have item A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation and liability claim pursuant to Government Code Sections 54956.9A, D1, James Powell versus Antioch Unified School District Contra Costa Superior Court case. B, conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator Dr. Robert Martinez, employee organization, Antioch Education Association, and California School Employees Association. And item C, public employee discipline, dismissal, and release. So we'll head to closed session and return to open session at 7 p.m. Recall us back to open session at 7:18 p.m. Can we get the quorum reestablished?
Yes. Trustee Hack?
I'd be here.
Trustee Lathan?
Here.
Trustee Lewis?
Present.
Vice President Rocha?
Here.
President Hernandez?
Here. Great. As far as item 3B, reports from closed session, we have report on item A regarding case number C-22-02542. By vote of 5-0, the board approved the settlement in the amount of $200,000. And that is the only reportable action from closed session. Moving on to C, flag salute. Trustee Lewis, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Heavy leg.
Great. Next, we have item 3D, approval of board minutes for the regular board meeting of education of September 25th, 2024. If there's not any discussion on changing any of the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I move approval.
Second.
Great. So it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. And the motion passes. Moving on to 4, superintendent reports. I will turn it over to Dr. Martinez.
Yes, good evening, Board President Hernandez, Vice President Rocha, board members, community members. We want to report on several different activities from the month of October. We had the College and Career Fair on October 22nd, held at Deer Valley High School South Gym. We brought 60 colleges, local employers, and trade unions to connect with students and families. Over 375 families in attendance on Tuesday night. The fair was a unique opportunity for our community to explore future pathways, and a special thanks go out to our CTE team for making this inspiring event possible. We had CPR training at Dozier Libby Medical High School. Dozier Libby's HOSA, the Health Occupation Students of America, led 350 eighth grade students from Park Middle School through hands-on CPR, first aid, and AED device training. That's the automated external defibrillators. The groundbreaking event is in partnership with the East Bay Regional Parks and American Red Cross. It marks the first time this many students have received this vital training at once nationwide. We probably should have called Guinness World Records on that. Thanks to Mrs. Karkeek and her students for spearheading this important initiative. On October 24th, Girls Empowerment Conference. Over 700 eighth grade girls gathered for a powerful day of empowerment, which included an inspiring panel of women professionals and community leaders, engaging breakout workshops led by high school student leaders, and an impactful keynote speech by National Girls Empowerment speaker Tracy Berry McGee. Thanks to the tremendous partnership with the community sponsors, especially the Antioch Rotary, it was a resounding success of a day. We did have a crosstown game. It occurred while there was a final score. I'm not sure if I remember the score. No, it was, I think, Antioch High School 20 and Deer Valley 14. But we also like to thank all of the athletes, the musicians, the cheer and support squads, the attending scholars. And we like to think that the winners are all for the camaraderie that's being built within our city with regards to great competition. This week, again, it's continuing. A bite of reality occurred at Antioch High School, a support from Delta Schools Federal Credit Union. Students were able to begin honing their budgeting skills and financial literacy development. And as we end this week, we know that a number of our schools will be having Halloween events and Dia de los Muertos events and different celebrations to recognize the cultural awareness of our families. We also will have all of our certificated employees attending staff development programs focused on outcomes on the book, The Anti-Racist School Leader, written by Dr. Damon Harris. He works with Solution Tree. And their outcomes for this Friday will be to consider processes related to curricula selection, instructional practices, stakeholder relationship building, staff evaluation, and other aspects of teaching and learning. So these are literally 900 of our certificated people focused and working together, discussing how we can work to further present educational opportunities to our scholars about their lived student experiences. So it's been a busy month, and Antioch's on a roll, so we're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have school reports. So we will have some high school representatives from Dozier Libby Medical High School.
I just want to introduce Chloe Liang. She's from Dozier Libby Medical High School. She's our ASB president. She is a HOSA communications officer, and she's also president of CSF. She's a pretty amazing student leader at Dozier Libby Medical High School. So, Chloe, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Alrighty. Can everybody hear me? All right. Good evening, Board of Education and members of the community. Again, my name is Chloe Liang, and I am the ASB president of Dozier Libby Medical High School. Thank you for inviting me tonight to talk about the distinguished Diamondbacks of Dozier Libby. We have had an unbelievable start to the school year. We welcomed a new principal, Mr. Wilkins, who has been making some positive changes, including more frequent lunchtime music. We have also changed our weekly announcements, which can now be found online. Currently, we are now in the middle of our annual Halloween Spirit Week. Students have been dressing up to show off their school spirit. Monday, we had minions running wild, and Mr. Wilkins even dressed up as Gru. Tuesday, we dressed across the decade while listening to groovy mix of music. And today, we wore pink, because it's Wednesday. As part of your folders, I have included a current copy of our activity calendar for each of the board members and superintendent. I would like to formally invite the board to stop by Dozier Libby next week to experience HOSA Week. Every day, HOSA is offering a unique activity, including a Stop the Bleed training and a blood drive. We still have appointments available if anybody would like to donate on Thursday, November 7th. Flyers are included in your folder. Leadership has also made some big strides this year. We now offer a class period for the first time, allowing scholars the ability to collaborate around student-centered events. Last week, Antioch, Deer Valley, and Dozier Libby Medical High School leadership students met as a group to discuss our upcoming collective winter ball. For the first time, all three high schools will be joining together for a snowy night at the Antioch Community Center.
Great idea.
Another new class on campus is Advanced Art with Mr. Lansky. Scholars from Advanced Art went on a field trip today to Crocker Art Museum. Additionally, Advanced Art and the Garden Club partnered and organized a campus beautification day. Students and staff worked in planters laying weed and cover and bark. They also worked on a school spirit mural, which is being painted on the wall facing our quad. Plans are in the work for more beautification opportunities, and we are always looking for additional volunteers. Student achievement is the result of dedication, hard work, and a commitment to learning. It reflects students' determination to reach their full potential and the guidance and support they receive from educators, parents, and the school community. Dozier Libby has been recognized by the school board for our AP program, college board for our AP program. We received bronze recognition due to the commitment of increasing a college-going culture, opportunities for students to earn college credit, and maximizing student college readiness. Just this week, we had UC Davis on our campus in the library working with more than 50 students on the admissions process. We have several staff members who are alumni of UC Davis, and they love seeing such a large number of students interested in becoming Aggies. Every year, Dozier Libby likes to celebrate student academic achievement at our Day of Excellence. In the past, we have only done this once a year, but due to the outstanding accomplishments of the Dozier Libby scholars, we kicked off this year celebrating our scholars, hosting a Day of Excellence on September 13th. Our next Day of Excellence will be held in February, and as part of this event, we will also celebrate scholars who have been reclassified English learners. Celebrating scholar success continues to make a big difference on the culture of our campus. Dozier Libby is the medical pathway high school of the AUSD. As Dr. Martinez mentioned, we recently made the news showcasing our HOSA program. On October 22nd, 36 HOSA members, including myself, CPR certified over 300 8th graders at Park Middle School. The East Bay Regional Park, Red Cross, and DLMHS HOSA have been collaborating since last year to fully certify students as BLS instructors. Student instructors will be participating in another event on November 20th, where HOSA plans to hold a drop-in CPR certification class for the community. More information is available on our website and in your folders. Last Friday was the Deer Valley and Antioch football games. Dozier Libby students from Mrs. O'Leary's sports medicine class stood on the sidelines ready to assist players. Both Mina Aljanabi and Hayden Aguirre helped players on both teams by assessing and stabilizing injuries. Getting firsthand experience like this makes our program unlike any other. Recently, ROP first responders and Miss Bedell took a trip to LMC for Career Focus Friday, emphasizing health and public safety. Students were able to visit different departments, including nursing and EMS. Several Dozier Libby alumni are current LMC students, student ambassadors who are giving tours during the event. Students past and present were excited about running into each other. Thank you so much again for allowing me to join you this evening. Dozier Libby Medical High School is an incredible school. Being able to share this with you makes me a proud member of the Diamondback family.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Do any of my colleagues up here on the board have any comments or questions?
Besides, wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much for coming. And just for public consumption, so the drop-in CPR certification class, for those, is there a cost for that, or is it free, or?
Yes, it will be $20 per participant. We will have a maximum of 35 participants per session. We will be offering both a morning and afternoon session.
Any other comments, questions? I will. Thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. Great. Next, we have item 6, public comments. A, individuals to address the board regarding items not on the agenda from the public. We don't have any. Moving on to 6B, individuals to address the board regarding items not on the agenda from district employees. Also, we do not have any. Moving on to 7, district reports. We have none. And then item 8, hearings. We have item A, Antioch Charter Academy, 2, charter petition renewal.
Good evening, Board. Tonight, we have Co-Administrator Elisa McCutcheon here to present the petition for renewal for ACA 2. It's a 5-year renewal. Elisa?
And I know we have a number of public comments. I don't know if you want those to go first or after your presentation. Great. So we'll start off with public comment from Marianne Dubitsky.
I'm a little shorter than that. Hello, members of the board. My name is Marianne Dubitsky. I'm a co-administrator at ACA 1 and 2. As a part of our renewal this year, I wanted to come and speak with you about the legacy of our schools, Antioch Charter Academy 1 and 2. My mother, Dr. Jeannie Dubitsky, was one of our founders, and I asked her earlier this week what she wanted the legacy of our schools to be. She answered right away and brought up all of the same things that I would have chosen myself. First, she said that the foundation of the Antioch Charter Academies is to put the child first when providing paths to education. At the very beginning, ACA was actually named the Learner Center School. While that name didn't stick because the students didn't love it, the importance of that idea remains. In 1997, the founders wanted to bring the child-centered learning to the Antioch community. Through Montessori and what was formerly called integrated thematic instruction, our founding teachers offered their students choice and ownership of their education. The learner continues to be the center of our decisions, and many elements of our program constantly evolve to meet the needs of our students. Another pillar of our program that my mother spoke about was creating lifelong learners. Montessori fosters a curiosity and a love of learning that can last a lifetime. Our core educational philosophies of Montessori and brain-compatible, highly effective teaching encourage exploration and allow students to delve deep into topics that interest them. Students are offered choice in their everyday work, their research projects, their social political action projects, and their electives. They have the ability to craft their own education based on their interest and personal goals. Every student's education is individualized, and no two students graduate from ACA 1 or 2 having had the same experience, even if they were twins. In the younger grades, students are mixed into multi-age groupings that allow students to be immersed in a Montessori-based education that is tailored to their individual strengths and needs. Beginning in 4th grade, students participate in a rotation of classes that includes various projects and over 25 different elective choices per trimester. We want our students to remember our school as a place where they learned a random skill, found a new passion, and tried something they never thought they would. At the end of each of our charter terms, we keep coming back to this board to renew our charter because we believe in our school and what it can offer our community. In the 90s, my mother wanted to bring Montessori to public education. She started with a few hours a day in her first grade class at Sutter, and then was able to create a public Montessori program in Antioch due to the support for this charter. As a longtime citizen of Antioch and a graduate from Antioch Public Schools, this community is an important part of who I am. I love being able to bring the pillars of a Montessori education to the children of Antioch and offer our families in Antioch that experience as a part of public education. ACA 2 are and always will be Antioch's homegrown mom and pop charter schools. I want to thank the current and former members of the board for their support for our two schools over the years. We hope for many more with you, beginning with ACA 2's renewal this year and ACA's next year. Thank you.
Board President Hernandez. It is a hearing, so you can open a hearing as well and take all the speakers if you'd like, or just wait for the presentation. So
Right.
it is a hearing.
Got it, great. So I'll go ahead and, formally open up the hearing, and we'll continue on with the speakers that we have here. So next we have Lisa Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Lisa Munoz Gonzalez, and I grew up in Antioch, but I taught for a long time in Pittsburgh and have returned to Antioch. Antioch Charter Academy 2 has allowed me as a teacher to teach all the ways that I was trained to do, but thought maybe wouldn't be possible. And what I mean by that is as Mr. Bisky said, every child gets a curriculum tailored to them. For instance, we have a student here in the back there who should be in my 5th grade math class, but at math time, he goes to a 6th grade math class because he's just that advanced in math. I have other students who I write completely different curriculum for them every week because that's what they need. And nobody's really aware of what they get, but they know they get what they need. I enjoy our electives program, as Mr. Bisky talked about, how the children get to choose from many different things from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock each week. This trimester, I'm teaching certification for babysitting, and the students have really loved it. And now I have to get with Chloe, one of our former students, to find out how I can get them CPR trained as well. But I feel good as a teacher, and I know my students feel good knowing that we will do many things for them, especially if we're aware of it. All they need to do is ask. We say yes a lot. And I feel like when I was in public school before, the other type of public school, we are public, I had to say no a lot because my hands were tied. But the teacher at Antioch Charter Academy 2 has a lot of power to say whatever is good for the child is something that I know my colleagues will support me in. So I just hope that you renew our charter. I've loved it there for 8 years, and it's a fabulous place for students of all different backgrounds and abilities to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dan Theodore.
Hello, my name is Dan Theodore, and I was hired as faculty at ACA 2 in July of 2020. For the school year of 2022 and 23, ACA 2 decided to hire an educational counselor to add to their faculty. The reason they chose to do this was because their insight and experience as teachers, we knew that we were far from behind the COVID-19 pandemic. We did it, because we wanted to heed the warnings of the United States Surgeon General, who said one of our greatest health risks right now is the mental health of our children and adolescents. We did it because we believe at Antioch Charter Academy 2 of always setting our students up for success. For the state of California, the average ratio of students to one school counselor is 450. So what that means at most schools, if a student needs to see a school counselor, they're lucky to see them in a few weeks, even up to a couple months. At ACA 2, our ratio is 200 students to one school counselor. And what that means for our students is whether they're having a bad day, whether they're feeling suicidal, whatever's going on, they will have somebody that can see them that day, acknowledge them that day, and triage them that day. And that's one of the ways we set our students up for success and allow our teachers to teach at our school. And the same thing kind of transfers over to behavior too. At most schools, teachers are kind of limited to what they can do with their kids. When they have a kid that his behavior is escalating in the class, they give them a referral and send them to some office, the principal or the vice principal. You will not see a kid carrying a referral to any office at our school because we believe in focusing on figuring out what the root of the problem is, solving the problem, and once again, setting our students up for success and allowing our teachers to teach. I'm sorry, I just got a little off track here. And also because of this low ratio of students to a counselor, even though we do not have a school social worker, a lot of our students are able to receive similar services as if we did have a school social worker. Our school is very involved in the East County Community Partnership that is sponsored by East County Children and Family Services. And through that, for some of our needier students and families, we have been able to supply them with food, clothing, partial rent payments. Even one family, we got new bedding and exterminator because their house was full of bed bugs. But the most beautiful part about all of this is not that all the things that students get at ACA2, it is, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Ran out of time.
Next, we have Sharon Vela.
My name, obviously, is Sharon Vela, and just a little background. I taught in Antioch Unified School District from 1971 through 2005, and then it was time to retire. I taught music in many of the schools, mainly Antioch Junior High and middle school. Then I did a little bit with Belshaw, part-time, and then Jeannie Dubitsky, the name we've heard tonight, and maybe even Debbie Hoban, the other co-founder, said, we have 2 schools now. Wouldn't you like to do part-time at one of our schools? And I'm, how many years now? Maybe 12. I've been teaching music over there, and I have the instrumental music. I look at this school as a place I would have loved as a child, and I wouldn't have been as uncomfortable when I went to my speech classes in high school because these children have that opportunity. The education is very thorough and rounded. And since I teach music, I get to see over half of our students take an instrument, and many are going on to the area schools. And you just mentioned about the football games, and that brings my light bulb of some of our former students. We see this leadership ability, and that's what I have noticed as the children. I teach them from, say, maybe even first grade, but through 8th grade. And I hear about them at the high schools. And they are leaders in their music performance groups, in other, like the young lady was talking about, all the areas. We've had, in the last maybe 7 years, 3 or 4, the big, the main thing for a band student, some of them strive, is to be the drum major. And we have right now a current drum major at an area high school. We had a current one, another one at other 2 or 3 of our area high schools. And that's that leadership that I see develop in these kids. And as they get older, they take it on and they're into colleges. And I just feel that it's a place where they grow, and it's been a joy to teach there. Doesn't mean they all practice as much as they should. What's new? But I had a principal some other years past who came to one of the rehearsals for a program, or it was an assembly, and he came up and said, I just discovered something. I know what keeps you music teachers going. You have a vision. And I kind of went, light bulb. Yes, I can see this little child as an adult on a stage. I can see them in another position. I can see them loving music their whole life. I see the students at this school loving to learn. I give them something, and there's some of them, and they're just ready to go with something new. And the last comment. Someone said one time, students at these two schools are certain, this was an educator, I've been to both schools, they're sure pretty children. No, they're not pretty children, they're happy children. And that's really important, and I encourage you to have this continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Joanne Doan.
I put in that slip and I said, am I really going to do this? It's hard to believe when I worked, I used to have to speak in front of hundreds of people, and now it's like, oh my God. I would just like to start by saying, obviously, I'm Joanne Doan. My granddaughters, twin granddaughters, have gone to ACA 2 since they were in kindergarten. They're now 10 years old. And I think one of the things that I really love about the school, there's lots of things I love about the school, but my daughter and my son-in-law and I were all really concerned about the size of the school that they went to and how many kids were in the classroom. I think the smaller classroom at ACA 2 and all the charter schools helps the children to understand better the program, and it helps the teachers to know the children really well. One thing I noticed that because I actually taught for years myself, taught preschool, but I also work for Contra Costa Child Care Council, which is a nonprofit agency, and worked with special needs children, is that when a teacher really knows a child well, they know what they need, and that child feels confident to work with that teacher. And a lot of times in a big classroom, some of those children are lost. And there's smaller classroom sizes here, which has been fantastic for my granddaughters. I know many of the children at the school. I also love that they have the Montessori resources for learning. There's an emphasis on independence and respect for others, the teachers as well as other students, which as a grandma, I find myself saying, when I went to school, we didn't talk to our teachers this way, or we didn't talk to our parents this way. And I see a lot of respect, and I really love that. My granddaughters were painfully shy children as young girls. And I have to say, one of the most touching things that happened to me was in kindergarten. They had a Christmas assembly, and I thought, oh my God, they're never going to be able to do this. I was so worried. And to see them stand up in front of the school and the teachers and the families and sing, and they were in the front row, just brought me to tears. And I really thank ACA 2 for their success, for their breaking out of their shyness, really, and having friends and being comfortable where they are. And I definitely support the renewal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Green.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Green, and I am a proud parent at Antioch Charter Academy 2. I've had 2 children at ACA 2, my son who is currently in 7th grade there, and my daughter who graduated in 2020 and is now in her first year of college. I have the unique perspective of time at this school and seeing how its program has positively affected both of my children. My oldest especially has been a great example of the type of student that ACA 2 can produce. In high school, she often proved herself to be a leader, a quiet leader among her peers. She was someone who led by example. My oldest, Throughout high school, she would often tell me how thankful she was that ACA 2 taught her the necessary skills to succeed both as a student as well as a community member. Again and again, I saw her incorporate the life skills that she learned at this charter school in high school. And now in college, I continue to see her using these same skills. And perhaps more importantly, I see that she's sharing them with the new friends she's making there and with her classmates. I, as a parent, am so grateful for the partnership that we have at this school. And although I'm sad that my youngest only has a couple more years there, I look forward to seeing how the skills that he will have learned at ACA 2 will help him in high school and beyond. I support the renewal of ACA 2's charter, and I respectfully request that you will too.
Thank you. And then lastly, we have Lori Hawley.
Hello, I'm Lori Hawley. I first came to ACA 2 as a parent when my son started kindergarten 12 years ago. I still have one child at ACA 2, while my older two children have graduated and are in high school now. I loved ACA 2 so much that I joined the staff as a teacher in the primary program, teaching kindergarten and TK in 2019. As a parent, what I love most about ACA 2 is the way the educational program is individualized to meet the needs of each child. My oldest had an IEP, and my middle son had a 504 plan, and the school did a great job accommodating their unique needs. As a teacher, I love the direct role teachers have in deciding how to spend our budget. Much of that budget we allocate to support staff, which are instrumental in allowing us to give students individual attention in the classroom. ACA 2 is a school with unique structures and philosophies which create a rich learning community for our students. Please renew our charter so we can continue this wonderful learning environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Trustee Hack, I know you said you want to say something. Do you want to say something now or after their presentation?
Right now, I'll be a speaker for 1 minute. I'm Gary Hack. I was a teacher for many, many years at John Sutter Elementary. And I taught 4th and 5th grade. Then I met this young lady, Jeannie Dubitsky. She taught 1st and 2nd grade or whatever. And we became buddy classes. She was up in A and I was in D, whatever. And she got into this thing called Montessori. And she, as buddy class, my kids would go up there and work with those kids and whatever, doing what Jean was doing. But I also then started 2 lunch periods a day. I'd go up to her class and redo her class totally, because she had to teach normal education. Then Montessori was in the afternoon. And I've never forgotten that. And when she finally said, I'm leaving to set up a new school on Montessori. And I don't remember who went with her.
Debbie Hoban.
Okay.
Debbie Hoban.
Debbie Hoban, that's right. I've never forgotten it. And every year I hear you guys share what you share. Unique. Thank you for doing it.
Great. So with that, I'll turn it back over to ACA to begin their presentation.
Do you have the slideshow to present? While you're getting that ready, my name is Elisa McCutcheon. I'm a teacher and a co-administrator at ACA 2. And tonight with me, we have the other members of our co-administration team for ACA and ACA 2, our Chief Business Officer, Todd Heller. From ACA 2's campus, you've met Marianne Dubitsky. Beside her is Vicki Willard. And from ACA 1 campus, we have Edna Heller, Kevin Fuller, and Alan Staler. And I'd like to thank all of you board members for having us here tonight, for reviewing our charter petition, for listening to our families, our staff, and to consider the benefit to the community of renewing the charter for ACA 2. I'm on slide 2, but I'll keep going. So ACA 2, oh, you do have the copies. Okay, fantastic. ACA2 first received its charter in 2007. And at the time, there were so many students on ACA1's waiting list that the community asked for more classes to be added to ACA1. But part of the school philosophy was to have a small school. And so it was decided to create a second school rather than expand the size of ACA1. So ACA2 was born. Since 2007, 12 graduating classes from 8th grade have moved on to local high schools, including AUSD and surrounding schools. Personally, I've been told informally by high school teachers from all 3 Antioch high schools they can recognize an ACA student, and they appreciate the skills that they bring with them to high school. This spring, ACA2 was awarded a 6-year WASC accreditation following our self-study process. And ACA2 has a history since 2007 of strong fiscal reserves and clean audits. Next slide, please. For the past 4 years, we, ACA and ACA2 staff, have been coming to the board to share an annual update presentation, and we've been sharing some components that make our school unique. And we could spend a lot of time here, but to summarize, you've heard about the 3 core philosophies: brain-compatible teaching, Montessori, and positive discipline, and these dovetail to create our unique instructional program and school climate. We have small class sizes and multi-age level groupings, which allow students to progress at their own pace, to work collaboratively, and to receive immediate feedback. All 1st through 8th grade students participate in a fantastic Friday enrichment program that includes art, music, pottery, personal safety, which is a martial art, Shaolin Kempo, and students participate as well in student service learning projects. They interact with the community, and along the way, they learn to be responsible citizens that contribute to their community. Next slide, please. As you may know, in 2019, the state of California updated the evaluation process of a charter school's performance so that authorizers like AUSD had a set of objective criteria to use during renewal time. And as is listed on the CDE website, and as is laid out in the charter petition on pages 4 through 11, ACA2 meets the criteria for a middle performing school and is entitled to a default 5-year renewal. Next slide, please. When we look at the data, one of the criteria for middle performing schools is performing at or above the level of the state on the dashboard indicators. As shown here in this slide, in 2023, ACA2 CASP scores were closer to the standard than the state, measured by distance from standard. This is not on this slide, but in 2002, ACA2 performed better than the state in ELA, and it was only 1/10 point lower from standard than the state in math, and that 1/10 of a point is why we're not in the high performing category instead of the middle performing category. As you can see as well, the chronic absenteeism rate and suspension rate percentages are lower than the state average at ACA2, and a higher percentage of English learners made progress on the LPAC when compared to the state. Next slide, please. Let's take a closer look at the performance of significant subgroups on ELA CASP in 2023. When we look at these subgroups, keep in mind that because we have a small school and only 3rd through 8th grade students take the CASP, we don't have all the subgroups that the state does. But for those student groups with at least 10 students in 2023, we had 3 student groups that were closer to the standard than the state. Those were socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, and students with disabilities. In that same year, Hispanic, white, and students that were 2 or more races were further from the standard than the state. Next slide, please. When we look at math, however, when we look at all these student subgroups, all of the subgroups were closer to the standard score than the state in math except the white students who were further from the standard than the state in 2023. Next slide, please. Included in the board packet was an executive summary of changes that have been made to this charter petition compared to the last one that the board approved in 2017. As mentioned previously, the opening section of the charter, which is pages 4 through 11, includes data that supports the middle track renewal criteria set by the state in AB 1505. One of the main sections that was revised is Element 1, which is a description of the education program. And although the program as a whole remains unchanged, both staff took the opportunity in the past 7 years to collaborate to make this section clearer, more concise, and aligned to educational updates that have happened since 2017. The schools revised their mission and vision statements, which have been updated in the charter, as well as language involving Common Core, next generation science standards, transitioning from SALT to LPAC. All of that language was updated. ACA and ACA2 transitioned to become their own LEAs, local educational agencies for special education, which resulted in the shift of responsibility from AUSD to the charter school for services related to Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So all that language that used to have the district responsible now has the charter responsible. In addition, curriculum lists were relocated to an appendix at the end of the charter. Our thinking is that the curriculum might change in the next 5 years, and the section Element 1 most likely will have very few changes. So the appendix can be something that we change when it's time to present in 5 years from now. Additionally, you'll notice that Element 2 and Element 3 have been combined. So Element 2 is measurable student outcomes, what we measure, and Element 3 is how we measure them, and those two things have been put together. And along that process, during ACA2's WASC self-study 6 years ago in 2018, one action plan item that emerged was having staff, family, and community members collaborate to update our school-wide graduate goals. And so that language was updated in the charter to match. Details about how each level embeds the graduate goals into its program was moved to the appendix. And then finally, in this section, the state asked charter schools to include goals for all pupils and subgroups of pupils to be achieved in the state priorities, which is the LCAP. And rather than put the whole LCAP into that section of the charter, we put a summary of it in the appendix because it is updated annually, and the most updated version is on our website, antiochcharteracademy.org. In Element 7, which is about student population and how the charter school will achieve a balance reflective of the general population of the district, we added additional updated language about how we would recruit and put out outreach efforts for the school. And in Section 8, admission policies and procedures, it talks about our lottery preferences, and we added foster youth to the list of admission priority preferences. And finally, throughout the document, any legal changes that the CDA put into effect that is applicable to charter school since the last time the charter was presented have been added per advice from our legal counsel. And you will see that throughout the document. Next slide, please. In conclusion, ACA2 offers Antioch residents a unique educational environment. Antioch Charter Academy 2 meets the state-established criteria for a 5-year renewal. Our students make progress academically over time. As you've heard tonight, our families and our students like the small school, our strong sense of community, and the support for individual student needs. And we look forward to answering any questions the board may have about renewing our charter and encourage you to vote to renew ACA2's charter.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Yes, Trustee Lewis.
Yes, so first of all, thank you for putting this together. It's a comprehensive presentation. I'm very familiar with ACA 1, or more familiar with ACA 1, and I've seen some of the approaches to education and seen the impacts of the approach to education on the students. So I'm really, really happy to see some of the outcomes that have happened. I would like to see sort of a sharing of some of those outcomes in the wider district. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Jag is probably going to have some some version of a statement around that as well. But, thank you. Good job.
My question is really, both of you have a board, or is this one board for both areas?
Great question. We have one board, we call it our charter council.
And that's parent involvement
It does, it has parents and community members that are on the board.
locally?
Yes.
That's what I like about this charter, because I feel that that's where the interest should be, and not some other area of town or cities. Thank you.
And Trustee Latham?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Question for you, what is the criteria for students to enroll in the school?
In order to enroll in the school, basically, there's a form that has their name, birthday, address, phone number, email. They send that in, and they are added to the wait list based on whatever grade that they're in. And that's the only criteria for getting into the lottery. And so then once a year, in the spring, around March, we have a lottery process because we have a lot of kids on the wait list, and we have around 21 or 22 students at each grade level. We have way more students that want to be in that class than we can fit. And so element 8 of our charter spells out that lottery process. So basically, if there's a child that is a child of a faculty member or staff member, they have top priority. Then siblings of current students come next. We just added foster youth as the next preference. Then, because we're part of something called SB 740, which is a charter school facility grant program, the next section that ACA 2 goes to is anybody that lives within the boundaries of Fremont Elementary School. And then after that, it goes to anybody that lives in Antioch, and then after that, it opens up beyond. So if their name comes up in the lottery, then we contact that person and let them know there's a spot, and then they just have to get back to us and say, yes, we would like that spot, and then fill out the regular school paperwork of, I'm going to look back here. Like you do when you transfer to enrollment paperwork, yeah. But there's no, I know a common misconception is there's like a test, or we have to look at your whatever scores and see if you're qualified to come to the school. There is nothing like that.
Perfect, thank you. And my next question is, I noticed when you were going over the CASP results, standard test results, it was mostly Latino and white students, some multiracial students. Antioch has a pretty large African-American population, and then a growing Asian population. So I'm just wondering, you have 10 or less students in those grades of those ethnic groups? Are those students
that are in
applying?
3rd to 8th grade?
Yeah,
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
And are those families applying and just not getting in the lottery, getting selected from the lottery?
So if you look at it this way, I looked at the numbers of new students that we bring into our school every year, and we have about 22 to 25 new TK and K students, and maybe between 10 and, depends on the year, 10 and 15 new students to fill in spots as students leave 1st through 8th grade. So in the past 4 years, we've had an average of 37 students coming every year. So as I said, it's a lottery. So if we have siblings that are already in the school, their siblings will get preference to come in, so demographics don't change. When we pull from the Fremont Elementary area, majority of them are Hispanic students, but there are some African American students in that population. So we do get them. Just this past year, we had fewer than 10. And for several years, we've had fewer than 10 in that 3rd to 8th grade category. That is one of the areas that we have been trying to reach out more to, like our local preschools, and to try to find other places that we have a huge lottery list, but we want to get a population that's more representative of the district.
Other questions?
I would add that there's a lot of 2 or more races at our school as well. So
Yes.
I think it's a choice by parents what they choose when it comes down to that as well. So, I mean, I think if you looked at our population.
If you look, yeah, we have a population, we have about 11% 2 or more races compared to the district, I think, is 5% 2 or more races. So some of our students that are Black fit into that category.
I think the only question I have, and I know that the dashboard color gives us a little bit of indication of this, but how do y'all think about the progression on both math and English language arts kind of like over time? And I know that there is that within the charter petition, but I guess I'm wondering, how do you all think about that? Because it seems like, there's always like some ebbs and flows to like performance of students. And so how do you all interpret that, and how does that like inform what you're doing with students?
Great question. Yeah, if you look, I think pages maybe 10 through 11 have something that we've shared with the board for the past 4 years. And that is, there are ebbs and flows in any individual cohort of students. And every cohort of students is different. Every student's different. What's most important to us from our perspective is that students make progress over time. Wherever they are when they first take that CASP test in 3rd grade, we hope that by the time they take it in 8th grade, they've made progress. That's what we want. And so that's what we see. When we look at our cohorts of students over time, we see both English language arts and math, they make progress. Our 7th and 8th graders typically score the highest on the CASP compared to our younger grade students, and to us, that gives us evidence that our program is working, that over time our students are learning, they're growing, and they're making progress. And to us, that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Great. So I think, Dr. Martinez, procedurally, next is just to close out the hearing, and that the actual vote on this is at a future meeting, and that
Correct.
today was just the hearing portion.
Correct.
Great. Any other questions before I close the hearing? Great. Well, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and close the hearing for today, and so the actual vote will come at a future board meeting. I know we have a number of families and staff from Antioch Charter Academy, and we'd love to have you stay for our board meeting here if you'd like to join us. But I think if it's okay with the board here, maybe we take a 5-minute recess, so anyone who wants to leave feels that they can go ahead and leave, but feel free to join us if you'd like.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call the meeting back to order at 8:17 p.m. And Maya, can you reestablish the quorum?
Trustee Hack.
Here.
Trustee Lathan.
Here.
Trustee Lewis. Vice President Rocha.
Here.
President Hernandez.
Here. So next we are on 9, public presentations. There are none. 10, consent items. We do have notes a revision on item 10F that's here before us.
And item 10G.
Oh, yes, and then item 10G.
Similar typo. You do have also additional information that was provided for another item. It was the last one, 10S.
S.
It was intended to be included, but it's just additional information.
Great. Are there any items for discussion or polling for a separate vote? Yes, Trustee Lathan.
Yes, thank you. Item 10B, which is Purchase Order Report 242506. Just curious about, it says on page 6 of the long document of all the orders, PO 2500817. I know you got to find it, Ms. Robbins, on page 6.
What's the number?
2500817, AP Digital Planners for Holy Rosary.
I don't see it, but, so.
Just curious about what that is for, because I know Holy Rosary is this private school or Catholic school. so,
Yes,
yeah.
and I'm assuming, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm assuming they also get a share of our Title I funds? Yeah. Or and Title II. So any of the private schools, we give them allocations, and that's what it's being used for.
Okay, and can you clarify, is that per ed code?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, all right.
It's per the funding, the federal funding. Title I and Title II is federal funding.
I did not know Catholic schools got federal funding.
Private, yep. So public schools get the allocation, and then we are obligated to allocate based on their enrollment to private schools.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And then lastly, 10G, which is also connected to 14D. I know we're not on 14, but there's a connection that I have a question about. So 10G is the H-KIT Architect's proposal for the John Muir Elementary Portables relocation and restroom modernization. So before H-KIT came up, and they provided information about like their the architectural work that they will do with our schools. I think it was the last board meeting they did that. And in light of Proposition 2, which I hope will pass, Proposition 2 is the larger state bond funding, that if it passes, then school districts can apply or can receive additional bond funds to update our schools, just like for the measure that we had that just passed. For that bond, for that Proposition 2, if it goes through, there's a 5-year facilities master plan that's required. Our current master plan was done in 2017. I know because Ms. Robbins gave me a copy to review. So that's one. Going back to 10G, just thinking about the process that we use to identify the areas in schools that need updating. You know, I always had questions about that because it felt like a checklist, a bathroom here, a roof here, but it wasn't a real comprehensive plan. So whether or not we get Proposition 2, which I think we will, my suggestion to the board would be to hold off and actually do an updated plan, which won't cost as much as the first one because we already have like a blueprint. But it's to really go and get a comprehensive plan, a master plan, so that we can know really what our schools need. Because right now, this checklist of a bathroom here and a roof here, as I walk schools and I talk to principals, although we were told that principals were engaged, some of them are telling me, no, we're not. We just were told that we're going to get this yard fixed, but this isn't really what we need. We need this, right? And considering who did the blast plan, I'm not, or the last checklist, I'm not confident that it is, I know it's not comprehensive enough. And so I think if we get Prop 2, we have to do it anyway, so why not just invest in doing a comprehensive master plan? Facilities.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, but
is this by any chance on the pre-K or the TK?
Yeah, so this
has to be done in
This
order for
has
us
to be done in
have-
order for us to do the TKK classroom one that we approved a couple board meetings ago. So in order to start that project, we have to relocate the portables, and we have to update the bathrooms as a part of that project. So that has to be done first in order for DSA to approve the TKK classroom.
That's fine. And I still stick with we need a plan. Because the checklist we had is not going to fly with the state if we get the Prop 2 money. And why not just do our due diligence and have a real facilities master plan with an outline of how we are going to keep our buildings up? When you look at other districts, that's what they have. And I'm sure we have something similar online, because I'm always told, go look online, we have it. But what we have now is not comprehensive, and it needs to be updated.
So the plan that they did prior to all of us, or to us, was a comprehensive plan, and that would be the type of plan that we would do, which takes a lot of time and money. And so, but that plan doesn't really get outdated, because if you need a roof 4 years ago or 5 years ago, you still need a roof today if you haven't replaced it. So that's one thing. So I think you're talking more about the bigger projects maybe, as opposed to, I mean, every school site needs a roof, needs HVAC, needs a new playground structure, needs shade, so that's not going to change within the 5 years. And as for the Prop 2, we won't just automatically qualify for Prop 2. We have to actually apply and see if we have modernization money available or new construction available. So Prop 2 is only going to go to the school districts that qualify for that. And now that we have growth, we may qualify, but we have to apply, and it takes several years to get that money.
Okay. I hear you, and here's what I'm thinking about. We're getting, for example, a new roof, or new roofs, new bathrooms, new portables. As I'm walking schools, principals are very clear to me, like, why did we choose this, right? And maybe there is a rationale, but it's very clear they were not all involved in that. And as a former principal, they should be involved in that, right? Some things you just have to do. If you have a leaking roof, I understand. But also, I'm not confident, and I could be so wrong, so clarify for me, please, that we've thought about like climate change and the best materials to use, or ways in which we can capture storm runoff. You know, there are so many things that I'm not hearing. It's more like, oh, just get a roof. But I talked to an architecture today, just consulting. It's like, oh, but there are so many things you can do, right? When you think about roofs, when you think about the type of material you're using, this could be totally something our architects are thinking of we're not involved in these conversations, and we should be, in terms of what we want our schools to look like, and also for the staff to be able to participate in those conversations, and families. And I know we had an online survey where people can do it, check the box or whatever, but I just think we need to think about it more comprehensively. And because this was here, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to bring it back yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like it might be beneficial to have a more specific agenda item to kind of have this broader discussion, rather than talk about, I guess, within the context of these two particular proposals that are coming before us. Because I don't think, either approving either of these proposals prevents us from having that conversation or making any of those kinds of decisions and thoughts.
It doesn't, but it does, because what we're doing is every time, like even the last meeting, I kind of brought it up, and it was like, oh, no, but then now we have another, plan on here, another architecture-like thing, so it keeps going. And this is a pattern, and it's a pattern that I see. And so, yes, we can do it the next time, but will there be another one on here, and then we're approving, and there still hasn't been a conversation? So that's all. I'm saying, like, how we need to get it on the agenda.
Well, I'm happy to entertain an agenda item that has not been on the agenda yet to discuss it. So I'm happy if you guys want to bring an agenda item forward to have the discussion and to go through it in a more thorough process of how it was. Bring in the architect to discuss what his process is. I do have a presentation that will talk about, because you had questions last time about what all the processes are from, approving the architect to going through the bid process and going through our construction. I do have a PowerPoint prepared for that for next board meeting, and then talk about the community engagement.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. Yeah, and I think that is a good start, but also it's not just about you all, it's about the board, because I haven't really heard vision overall from the board, so some of this has nothing to do with the district personnel as much as it is, what is it that we want to see in our schools in terms of updating facilities and all of that. So that's it. Thank you.
Any other items? Do we need to pull that out for a separate vote?
No.
Great, then, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to approve all the consent items,
Do you have any amendments or is this ready to
A
go?
through S, with the revisions to items 10F and 10G.
I move approval for all items in the consent calendar, item 10, A through S, including the amendments that were provided.
Second.
Great, so it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no, and the motion passes. Moving on to 11, action items. We have none. 12, items for information, discussion, action by board. We have one item A discussion of potential study session focused on special education services. So I think similar to the discussion that we had on the grant writer and kind of the information that we needed for that, I think we've had a lot of discussions about special education services and just kind of, I think, need to be clear on what exactly we need as a board when it comes to special education and what our expectations are for staff in terms of what information we're kind of seeking. But I'd also like to see if, because I know this is something that Trustee Lathan has brought up, am I capturing that, I think, well for like kind of, I think, the next steps that we need?
Yeah, I don't know if I was the person who asked for this to be on here. Maybe I did.
If I could, so part of the conversation was that it was originally, I believe, Dr. Lathan, you had asked for some special education information. Board Vice President Rocha then asked for an additional piece of information. And in conversations with Board President Hernandez, we thought we could bring it here just to receive some more clarification. And so part of that process, as Board President Hernandez is indicating, is that staff is considering and thinking the best way to serve the board would be potentially to have a study session, if that's still the interest of the board, where we would have the special education district experts in the room and come to give information on several items. Some of the suggested areas would have been the pre-referral intervention process and the assessment process, potentially the eligibility determination and development of individual education plans, potentially a review of all of the multiple services and programs that we have that provide free, appropriate public education. It's considered FAPE, maybe information on our low incidence services in coordination with the SELPA, because we don't do this alone. We have some services that are provided through the SELPA for sometimes, for example, our deaf and hard of hearing students. If we have that resource needed from outside the district, we coordinate that. And then there is an associated cost for budgetary constraints, because it is an increase to cost for special education services. And again, we have a responsibility through both state and federal legislation to provide the services that our students need, but it does create fiscal impacts. Those were some of the suggested areas, and we wanted to make sure that if the board had specific areas or, again, focused to have this information, that we were meeting the board's needs. So that's kind of the idea behind opening it up for further discussion if there's other information that the board would like, or if that's still a valid concern that we want to do that, then we'd focus through the calendar as far as setting some time to provide that forum for a study session. That's an idea.
Yeah, basically, I think we've just been having a lot of separate conversations about special education in parts and pieces, and let's just bring all these parts and pieces together and make sure we're having the full comprehensive conversation. So this is like a good opportunity if, what Dr. Martinez said right now, if there's something that he didn't touch on that we do think that we need to talk about, this is like the perfect time to bring those kinds of things up. And then also to make sure that we do want to have this conversation in this way that I think we're proposing that makes sense to have.
Yeah, so I think, one of the conversations that parents have had with me is access to IEPs. And I don't know where it would fit. I think a larger conversation might be helpful in terms of like maybe having a repository and I don't know all the specifics around how that works and sort of barriers to that. But having a process for parents, once an IEP is established, for parents to have access to that IEP. I think having that conversation, what that could look like, might be helpful because some of the conversation is this IEP happened, I'm not sure where in the process is, and I'm not sure what the determination is, or I need this IEP to transfer. A lot of conversations have happened, so I think that would be a helpful conversation as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a study session because we've had quite a few comments that came to the board from parents that are a little upset about what was going on. And I think I know a little bit, but I don't know all the regulations, all the rules, and I'd like to be reviewed. It'd be, so I could understand it a little better.
Yeah, Trustee Lathan.
Yes. I'm thinking of, in addition to the technical pieces of IEPs and how we contact parents, I would like to know more about the report we received from the state and where we are in that. And then also how we're building or thinking about building partnerships with parents who have students with disabilities, because what's shared with me from some parents is that they don't feel like they're a part of the process, but they're told what to do. Also, just thinking about how we message. I met with a group of advocates in my first year as a board member in 2022. There are like 6 of them, different. They work for different organizations. And one thing they shared with me is they really wanted to advocate for more kids to have IEPs. And as a former ed specialist, I'm going, no, that's not, only if the kid needs it. So we talked about first good instruction and general education. That's really what the challenge is. And so just ways that we can message to the community, like what we're doing in general education setting, in that universal, and also tier 2 and 3, so that students won't need to have services if they don't really need it.
Yeah, I think the list you provide, I think, seems very comprehensive. I think I'm particularly interested in the IEP process. I think that's what most parents typically come to me to talk about, and really understanding where the barriers are I think particularly in terms of like whose responsibility it is and where those barriers exist. So there are times where I think it could be a district issue, but there's also times where it's state barriers or federal barriers or resources. Like what is sometimes keeping these processes either from like moving along or keeping certain conversations from being had in like particular ways, really kind of understanding those barriers, because I think when we don't have kind of that clear understanding, I think a lot of community members feel like, oh, then it must be that we don't care, we don't want this to happen. But sometimes we do have the ability to make those changes, and sometimes I think we have some barriers when it comes to like resources, time, and all these other things that maybe we can also think more creatively about. So that's my particular, I think, interest when it comes to that.
Do you want to say something before? And lastly, what is the training like for special educators, for education specialists, paraprofessionals in particular, once they are here? So not necessarily in their teacher training program, but how do we support special educators?
Can I add one more?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, I mean, I in thinking about it, obviously we have a vested interest in training teachers and our staff. But at what point are we going to also involve those parents to say, okay, well, these are the available resources. This how you, well, maybe not advocate for yourself, but maybe these are some things that are within reason, kind of to support what Trustee Hernandez says. We do that training for the staff, but also I think it might be beneficial to train the parents as well, because sometimes if we have sort of an inflated expectation or sort of inflated requests. Sometimes, to your point, it may not be within the scope, or it may not be within our ability to satisfy those requests. And so training the parents around what the limitations are and how we might best position the kid to be successful.
Dr. Martinez, does that give you a good enough sense of maybe like, I know it's a big list, but at least hopefully maybe that gives you a sense of like priorities? Because maybe
does.
we may not have the time
Yeah,
to get to
we will
absolutely
work
everything.
directly with the special education department staff and put together a plan that will try and hit a lot of these particular top-level issues and make sure and provide the board with good information. And it may be that it's a first meeting, and then you'll want more information or more direction as we go. But we appreciate the feedback.
It seems to me that every time, when we look at our list of employees, special ed is the highest number of turnover. So that is another point I'd like to understand.
Great, thank you.
Great. There's no other comments. It looks like we have a consensus on how to move forward on this. Great. Moving on to 13 resolutions for first reading. We have none. 14 resolutions for immediate action. We have item A, Resolution 2024-2524, sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials.
All right, Board, we ask that you adopt this resolution declaring that all of our schools have sufficient textbooks and materials in line with state standards and frameworks in all the core subjects.
Great. So unless there's questions, I will entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I move approval.
Second.
Great. So it's been properly moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2024-2524, sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. And the motion passes. Moving on to B, Resolution 2024-2538, authorizing instructors to teach outside of credential authorization for the 2024-25 school year.
Yes, good evening, Board. This is our standard request that you've seen many times, asking for single subject credential holders to be permitted under Ed Code to teach outside of their credential area for the teachers listed.
Great.
So
Yes, Trustee Lewis?
We want to make sure for public consumption that these teachers are in a closely related field that the request is being made for.
Yes, this particular request is for a home hospital student, but they are, under Ed Code, they do have to be aligned to their credential area, even to qualify. So, yes.
Yes. And I'm sorry, Trustee Hack, you made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Great, so it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no, and the motion passes. Moving on to C, Resolution 2024-2539, authorizing provisional internship permit.
Yes, so this request is for the individuals listed before you for action item C to be approved for a provisional internship permit while these particular teachers work towards the requirements to fulfill an internship credential. We've actually still continued to hire teachers. We're down to 3 elementary school vacancies as of today. I know, Dr. Martinez, you don't want me to jinx it, but our HR department and our principals have been working really hard, and we're still finding some really talented new staff out there. So.
Great, so unless there's any discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
I move approval.
Second.
Great, so it's been properly moved and seconded to adopt the resolution authorizing a professional internship permit. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no, and the motion passes. Moving on to item D, Resolution 2024-2540, review and potential approval of resolution of support, Proposition 2, kindergarten through grade 12 schools and local community college public education facilities, modernization, repair, and safety bond act of 2024.
Yes, and this item is brought to us, supported by CSBA, California School Boards Association, the Association of California School Administrators, and the California Teachers Association. This is a state measure that, of course, is on the next election, November 5th. And so all three organizations and multiple organizations have asked that school districts across the state provide support for this particular state bond. The board has done this in the past, basically providing a resolution in support of the measure. So it goes as, again, advising the public that you believe that this is an important measure to support facilities, modernization, and such throughout the state for kindergarten through 12th grade schools, including the local community colleges. And so, again, as Dr. Jag mentioned earlier, if we have projects in the queue, there will be, if it passes, usually an application process by which we ask to be considered for additional funds to support us in our process and our work towards modernizing our buildings, and again, making sure that we're in the queue for potential dollars coming to the district. So it's very positive action that we hope you support.
Is there any discussion or questions on this? I think it's, great. It's an opportunity to provide more support for our students and for students across the state.
I move approval.
Second.
Great, so it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. And the motion passes. Moving on to 15, resolutions for second reading and action. We have none. 16, board policies for first reading. Is there any discussion for any items A through G? This is our first reading, so this will come back to us. Great, so if there's no discussion or questions, we will bring these back for final approval at our next meeting. Moving on to 17, board policies for second reading and action. We have none. And then 18, information items for general information. We have item A, 2023-24 annual developer fees report for public review.
This is our annual report for our developer fees, which is Fund 25. It comes from the new developments, and it's for facility purposes only.
Great. Any questions? Otherwise, it is just information. We have item B, revised administrative regulation, 4119.12, 4219.12, 4319.12, Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedure, and exhibit notice of Title IX sexual harassment policy. Any questions on this? Great. And then item C is revised administrative regulation 4161.1 and 4361.1, personal illness, injury, and leave. Any questions or discussion? Item D, revised administrative regulation 4261.1, personal leave, illness/injury leave. Any questions, discussion? And then lastly, we have our quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints. Any questions or discussions? We did have a complaint on there. I'm wondering if there's, and I did see that it's resolved, if there's a little bit more information on what that complaint was and the resolution to it.
Yes, board. We had a complaint about the air conditioning at John Muir Elementary School. When our maintenance department became aware of it, they immediately put portable air conditioners in place and then contacted a technician to come in to do repair, and were able to repair the airflow in the classroom, and we were able to resolve that complaint.
Great. Any other questions or discussion?
No, but it was interesting that I went to the DLAC meeting, and one of the first things they, besides telling them about recertification and how to help their students, is this one. About complaints. And of course, they were said, now, remember, bring it to us first, and we can see if we can resolve it, and then bring it, and then you can go forward.
Great. Moving on to 19, future agenda items from board members. We'll start with Trustee Hack. Any future agenda items?
Not immediately, no.
Great. Trustee Lathan.
facility, I'm not even sure what to call it, but the bond facilities update conversation. Yeah. That's about it. Oh, and then review of our draft board goals at some point soon.
Vice President Rocha.
That's probably it, too, is goal setting. It just seems like if we're going to go forward and we're going to be looking into a possible person to come in for our district, we need to be setting that up right away so that we can at least make sure we can give that out to whatever organization that's going to be doing our job looking for somebody.
Right.
So I'm thinking that we need to sit down and get our goal setting done.
Yes, Trustee Lathan.
The equity committee, which included myself and Trustee Hernandez that we set up, has draft goals, and so we at least have a starting point, Trustee Vice President Rocha, to start with once we have the conversation.
Presented to us,
Yeah.
wasn't it? I think the audit's coming up, the report. I thought I read it in the materials that they gave us. There was a deadline on it, or is it down on the agenda, or future agenda? I'm sorry.
Yes, it'll be on the agenda. We have draft
Because I
goals,
have
and
the
we'll
listing
share.
of all the things that we're supposed to have gone through.
Yeah, so we can,
And one of them was that report, and it was going to be coming in to one of our meetings. I marked it down.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, so we can, discuss that at a future board meeting. Trustee Lewis.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll be complete between now and next meeting, but I would really appreciate if the conversation around having ROTC, if that could continue. I know that there were some delays for several reasons, but if that conversation could continue to happen, I think, that would be beneficial to the kiddos.
Great. Moving on to item 20, additional comments which exceed the first 30-minute session limit. We have none. And then 21, reports and comments from board members. Do you want to start us off, Trustee Lewis?
Sure, I actually don't have anything this week. Surprise, surprise. Just working a lot. And so I have been, I did sit on, I am still a member of the School Site Council for Lone Tree Elementary. And so, supported that. We had our meeting, I think it was on earlier this week. And so that was a really great way to hear from the community, a great way to hear from staff, and then also some parents and think about kind of how to use those funds. So that's been really great. I've also walked some of the schools and just met with the community. So that's about it.
Great. Vice President Rocha?
I've been connecting with the community, but the one that I wanted to emphasize talk about it was the parent involvement. The sports that I went to see, which was the Park versus Dallas Ranch, and what a great basketball teams they both have. A whole bunch of kids that are going to come forward. It's going to enhance our high school on both sides. It's girls and boys. And of all times, Park Middle School actually got the trophy on both of them. And it was a big celebration. You see all the parents in the audience. I mean, somehow if we could capture something from them, because they're there and they're very in tune to what's going on with the students in these basketball games. And I know that we're doing a lot with the after-school programs and et cetera. It's encouraging their participation. So I thank you on that. So that was all the other things. There was other things that I went to, but those are I thought that was the most important, because I thought, what an involvement of all those students and the parents.
And then Trustee Lewis?
Yeah, so I did have one more as Trustee Rocha spoke. It rekindled a thought in my mind. So first tee. So I do want to thank the team at Lindsay Wisely and team for coordinating the first tee. I don't have everybody's name off the top of my head, but I do want to highlight that is an amazing program. It teaches young people how to golf. You see, I don't know how many students were out there, but they're learning the basics and fundamental of golf. And when we think about focus, we think about concentration, we think about community involvement. These are the type of activities we definitely want to see kiddos in, but we also want to highlight so that way more people know about them. I think it's a phenomenal program, as well as some of the other programs as well. So I did want to highlight that.
Trustee Lathan?
I visited since our last meeting, Dallas Ranch Middle School, Sutter Elementary, Orchard Park, Black Diamond Middle School, Dozier Libby Medical High School, and Deer Valley High School. And I'm not going to, I would have so many amazing things to say, but basically the cross-cutting themes, I asked principals like what their goals were, what they wanted for their schools. And there was definitely a laser focus on reading and phonics in K-3. PLC, so professional learning communities, all the principals at these schools talked about the beginning stages and what it looks like for their staff. Strengthening the school-wide culture and climate, that was for everyone, and that makes sense because Anthony Muhammad was here and did a whole day session with principals on culture, transformational culture, and that's connected also to our equity audit recommendations. And then there was varying kind of information around the equity audits. When I asked the principals, most of them could say, oh, this is where we're focused from the equity audit. And so there, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more clarity and direct kind of focus on what they need to do with it. Because what I don't want, we spent not only a lot of money, but it's a lot of great information, is for them to shelve it and say, oh, that's just something we did. The whole purpose is to actually use it. And some of them are very clear, like, yes, my whole staff looked at it, this is what we discussed, and others are like, oh, we did bits and pieces, right? So I just really look forward to seeing a more comprehensive view and constantly coming back to it, because schools who actually follow the recommendations become high performing, and that should be our goal. That's it, thank you.
Trustee Hack?
Well, when you have 5 grandkids and they play 3 different sports, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been traveling to go to various games. That's it, though. Nothing here.
Great. And I still owe people a lot of books to come present on, so I'll keep my comments short today and wish everyone a happy Halloween tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Great. Moving on to 22 future meetings. Our next
Well, Trustee Hernandez, I think you owe us 3 books. Is that coming in the next meeting?
That's
True.
right.
I'm having trouble. I need to sit down and like organize my books because I'm having trouble making sure I'm not grabbing one that I already like presented and shared on now. So I need to get a little bit more organized on that.
Excuses.
I have one more, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Vice President Rocha.
At Antioch High School for lunch hour, they're going to have the Dia de los Muertos display. So if you get a chance, it's 11 o'clock, 15, I guess, the first lunch, and then there's another one later after that. Just to let you know, it's available. I missed my Fremont and I missed Belshaw. They both did 2 good ones.
So our next, no, all good, thanks for sharing. So our next meeting is on November 13th, and then the one after that is December 18th. Lastly, we have adjournment, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjournment?
Second.
Great, this is properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. And the motion passes. See everybody.